Hello, everybody. We would like to welcome you all to Rock the Lyceum. For those of you joining for the first time today, the Rock the Lyceum lecture series is hosted by NCCU Student Engagement and Leadership, along with the Lyceum Committee. The series brings in several of the nation's top entrepreneurs and Lyceum Committee. The series also touches on relevant topics in education, entertainment, politics, and social justice. I would like to begin by having the students here introduce ourselves first, and I will kick it off. My name is Zaria Johnson. I am a senior majoring in mass communications from the Bronx, New York. And since attending NCCU, I've been inducted into several honor societies, as well as NCCU's Collegiate 100, and started my own organization, Uptown Eagles, featuring Eagles from New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Delaware, and New Jersey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Talia Stansu. I am a junior criminal justice student from Washington, D.C. I am very active on campus, in which I am the president of Sisters of the MAC, and I'm also the secretary of Jules.
Tonight, our Eagle returning to the nest is Dr. Anthony M. Donaldson, Jr., a tenured track assistant professor of African American history at SWANI, the University of the South. Dr. Donaldson is a two-time graduate of North Carolina Central University and a 2020 inductee of NCCU's 40 Under 40. In 2019, Dr. Donaldson earned his PhD in history from the University of Florida. Over the course of his career, Dr. Donaldson has received over $100,000 in grants. He has earned academic fellowships from notable institutions such as Thurgood Marshall Foundation, Southern Regional Education Board, and recently, Provost Diversity Dissertation Fellowship at Middle Tennessee State University. His expertise and current research explores the intersectionality of race, class, and identity as it relates to American popular culture and politics. Dr. Donaldson's resume for freedom exceeds his short life. By age 21, Dr. Donaldson completed 3 majors, managed political campaigns, and served as one of the youngest enrolling clerks in North Carolina history. By age 22, Dr. Donaldson organized over 50 rallies and marches, registered over 100,000 voters, and had the second highest turnout for President Obama in North Carolina. He has also helped free political and wrongfully convicted prisoners around the world. By age 25, Dr. Donaldson taught and coached over 500 at-risk students during his tenure with Teach for America, and launched his own nonprofit, 10 Summit, which has served over 1,000 youth and provided thousands in scholarships.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Zaria. Is that, I assume that's it? It's kind of weird not having a round of applause, if we were in person. Okay. Virtual class. That's all right. We're all adjusting.
Right.
All right. So let me share my screen. Zaria, can they see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Can they hear?
Audio, yes.
Mobile and they know that. Logo on my flow now. Cross out Chamberlain, throwback, match my Rolex. Everywhere I go, flex. Now they park on some low. Whole lot of smoke in that Rory, that thing pole. Burning rubber. Wearing cameras that was undercover. Under pressure, made statements tugged on their brothers. Never judge you, but the streets will never like you. I wonder what it comes to in your brain for you to run to. Once the haters, and covers and maces. All it's done, cause our culture is contagious. Third generation, South Central. I live long enough to see it change.
All right. North Carolina Central University. I'm home. Truth in service. The truth is, America doesn't serve us. We need less community service and more community servants. You know, when I attended North Carolina Central University back in the day, okay, now I sound like one of those old heads, perhaps because I am. But no, really, when I attended NCCU back in the day, the whole administration building was named after a racist white man. But to our credit, these young scholars like Zaria has changed that since then. It's now the Shepherd administration building. Congratulations to us all. Let's all clap our hands. But the truth is, until we pay our dues, we will still be in debt. Black power and white money is like the greatest form of disrespect. I mean, I get it. You don't want to hear the truth. How can this still be our school if we still be in Duke Auditorium? Perhaps that's gone over your heads, but you know what? Too soon. Let's celebrate some positive, right? Congratulations for everyone supporting the North Carolina Central University's collegiate athletic program for making it to ESPN. Woo! Yes, so exciting. But the truth is, you know damn well that half of y'all deep inside are Duke and Tar Heel fans. Oh, here comes AJ with that again. Why are you so serious? It's not that serious. Since when? Yes, it is. I mean, the funny thing is, have we forgotten the secret game that happened in 1944 when we beat Duke ass 88-44? And I get it. We get the scoreboard, but guess what? They still keeping score. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, AJ, you know what? Why can't we love both? Sure you can. I don't want to take away your hope, but keep that same Duke energy when you apply to their schools and they both tell your ass no. you know, it's a little too much for now. Look at it this way. Truth in service. The truth is, America doesn't serve us. We need less community service and more community servants. You know, overly educated folks bother me the most. I mean, I understand you got that cap and gown, but could you please stop capping in that gown? I mean, why don't we tell these young folks the truth? I mean, why don't we teach them how to learn a trade or learn how to code instead of learning these things that are so wrong and end up like us with these damn student loans? But you know what? I'm not supposed to say that. Truth in service. I guess I'll bring the attention back on me. You know, it's funny, when I went home with all my college degrees, I was so proud until I found out my little cousin had more degrees than me. Attempted murder in the first, second, and third degree, allegedly. It's funny how we'll put that mask on to attack our enemies, but we won't put that same mask on to protect our families. And you got these Imhotep Negroes out here telling you that the coronavirus is a conspiracy. Boy, please. It is killing Black people at a rate ×3. You know what? Let me stop. Truth in service. The truth is, I was highly upset about what happened on January the 6th. I mean, really, it really made me sick. I mean, I am convinced that not only will they not be convicted, that if they do get convicted, that they'll receive a lighter sentence, those that participated. Dr. Donaldson, you're a professor. Why are you so pessimistic? You know what? That's the problem right there. You are asking the wrong kinds of questions. You think I care about the criminal justice. I'm trying to figure out, why are the criminals just us? See, you know what? I rely on the hood philosopher Soldier Slim, who said it best. If a Black man kill a Black man, it's cool. They're loving that. If a Black man kill a white man, they're sentencing him to death. If a white man kill a Black man, they charge him with self-defense and break it down to manslaughter with all of the evidence. I mean, somebody, please make this make sense. How can you get more time for selling dope than trying to overthrow the United States federal government? I mean, they punishing the Capitol, but they giving us capital punishments. You know, I get it. Truth and service. I'll say this, service. I appreciate the fact that our school has these community service hours to graduate. And the service part is you go down to downtown, you feed the local homeless, and you make sure they have something to eat. But a servant is someone that realized that homeless means they don't have a home, so perhaps we should focus on where they're going to sleep. Service, for those that may not catch that. Service is the kind of person that when you go out to party with your friends and you come back from being in the club and having fun and being out, they not only give you a ride home, but a servant is the kind of person that will stop their car and look and make sure you get in the house. See, service is the kind of person that not only calls and checks on their friends, a servant is the kind of person that will stop somebody in mid-sentence and check them and say, don't you talk about my friend. See, there's a lot of people who are engaged in service and not being servants. The truth is, America doesn't serve us. We need less community service and more community servants. And if you want me to support your Black business, this has nothing to do with anything. This is not community service. Perhaps you should work on your customer service, because your community service without customer service is a lack of service to the people we serve. I think you should always understand that. Now, let's get started. I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here. It's been a while. Perhaps you saw Zaria, can they see the screen?
Yes, they can.
You know, this picture here represents a lot more than you can imagine. This opening song was Blue Laces by Nipsey Hussle. And the honest thing about this is the song actually has the sample in it. It's been so long. It's been such a long time. And it's not going to be more than a couple weeks from now, 2 years ago to date, where Nipsey Hussle was killed and assassinated in broad daylight, 5-bullet center mass, one to the head. But that song helped me get through my dissertation. In fact, the second chapter, the chapter that I will present partially on today, was written with this song in mind, a year before he died. Prophetic in some ways, but you know, just things happen in others, right? So let's get started, right? Truth and service. I attempt to ask this question in all of my research, and I wish you would use this as well. Please take your notes, students. I don't want to have to, you know, repeat myself in a lot of cases. I'm sorry, that's the professor coming out of me. But I know a lot of you are thinking, well, who in the hell is this guy coming back to speak to us? Because if I was in grad school and a historian was coming back to speak, I'd be like, man, let me just get this honors, these hours, this look. I don't know who he is. He's not popular. He's not famous. So the least I can do is leave you with some education on how you can connect your campus and community activism to make your time at NCCU and beyond a little more worthwhile. The question that you need to ask is, how do seemingly powerless people go about the business of attaining power, right? That's what happens when you are a servant, right? You're interested in how do people with less power go about the business of obtaining power, see? And key word, seemingly powerless, because just because you have less power does not mean you're powerless. So one thing historically that has happened to Black people, which is the question I raised that, you know, during the promotions of this talk, which was, who killed George Floyd and Breonna Taylor? Historically, America has attempted to gas and contain African Americans in a very geographical and environmental way. Starting in the 1950s, Oakland landmass for African Americans was restricted to 22% of its land mass. So for those of you that's trying to interpret this data and information, I want you to realize that Blacks were restricted and concentrated to this small portion of land starting as early as the 1950s, right? This was consistent throughout the South as well. In 1960, in Greensboro, just a few miles down the road from you guys, African Americans were restricted to 10% of Greensboro's land mass, right? Now you're probably thinking, well, what significance will that have on Breonna Taylor or George Floyd? Well, let's get to Durham, first of all, since that's who I'm referring to. In Durham, you had 77% of those African Americans living in Durham, who were 38% of the population, they were restricted to 12% or less of Durham's land mass. In fact, over 60 to 70% of the rent that these Black bodies paid in Durham were going to absentee slumlords, white men who owned and restricted the spaces of an Atwater, who owned and restricted the spaces of a Joyce Thorpe, who owned and restricted the spaces of Ruby Gaddis. All of these are Black women where this confrontation would take place, right? And when I started to do my research, I realized that Black people have been restricted and uncomfortable well before we get to the problems of police brutality. That's only compounding the issue, right? And then I started to understand the situation of segregation. Segregation is about the distance of color between two races. It's more about the control of bodies moving to the building and moving to. So now we can see what these problems are. It's always good to come to some solutions on how Black activists and servants in the past have gone about the business of obtaining real power and real control, community control. The war on poverty in 1964, it's going to introduce this concept called the maximum feasible participation of the poor. Now, I want you to really understand what I mean by this, or what they meant by this. This was to include as many poor people in the process as possible in order to make a decision about their lives. It sounds like a brilliant idea. The problem was they didn't expect Black anti-poverty workers to actually take them up on that offer to such a degree that they started to develop their own organization. See, what do you do with white money? People say you're anti-capitalist, or AJ, you don't agree with accepting donations. No, I'm interested in, are you going to be co-opted when you get the grant? Will you be co-opted when you get the position? Will you be co-opted when you get the opportunity? See, these Black activists and servants during the 1960s, they were fighting against this co-optation. They started the Student Organization of Black Unity, right? Imperialists, get out of Africa. They're changing their names as well, right? So they're really understanding what it means to become some part of the community, because you cannot have a community without your identity. So you cannot have your community without an identity. They identified with the African diaspora and they understood what it meant to collect these funds and do what you can to protect your people. So we have these forces constantly going back and forth against each other, where you have white authorities trying to control Black bodies through these grants, 90 million to Black Lives Matter. I don't want to talk about that. Then you have Malcolm X Liberation University that's being founded by no other than Howard Fuller. Within the same span, you have Soul City being funded by the US government to found this city called Soul City by Floyd McKissick. All of these are connected to North Carolina Central in some way. So we have a history of being servants and not just committing to service, right? The best place they want someone is to be in the service mindset, to collect a bunch of community service hours without trying to establish any institutional change or framework. That's where they cope. That's where they get you. I don't want to go into more details with that. So what are the ways in which you can become a servant and not just getting caught up in service? One, you have to wear the mask. You have to wear the mask. If you're going to be someone that's not going to become a Black Judas, you need to figure out who you are before you go into the communication process. And what do I mean by that? I mean the negotiation process. It's very important that you understand what Huey P. Newton meant when he said that we cannot communicate and negotiate from an inferior position. One has to know who they are before they get to the table. That's the problem. We're talking about a seat at the table. No, I don't want a seat at the table if you don't know what the hell you're talking about and if you're not representing and identifying with the people who sent you there. Why should the world be overwise and counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. You cannot wear the mask if you keep inviting people to the cookout and we didn't give you permission to bring them to the cookout? You're trying to wear the mask and you got a problem on your hands. You got all these folks that you're vouching for coming into our HBCUs, learning our swag surfing. No, I ain't want that swag. I would play the song right now, but you look on ESPN, you got Iowa State performing swag surfing. You did that. You gave them permission to co-opt your culture. That's what I meant by that. They gave us a scoreboard, but you don't understand that they keeping score. Moving on. We wear the mask. Look at me, young Donaldson, online, participating in a very legal activity with my line brothers here. You can see them 1 through 13. But there's a story behind this particular picture that really resonates with me. Speaking of masks, you have culprit number 1, number 9. We're going to call him number 9. I'm not going to call his name out, Antonio. I'm not going to say his last name, I promise. I'm sorry. The point is, this particular human being, my loving brother, ruined what I consider the biggest moment of our lives at the time. We were to come out marching, and our mask was to be fit and in place. And the problem with this particular situation is, all of my years, one by one, you will take off your mask and reveal who you are, and everyone would cheer. Look at the thousands of people in the stands at McDougal Gymnasium. I was waiting on this moment. And I believe it or not, Antonio, mask came out prematurely. So they told us, everyone, take off your mask. I'm standing there like, they ain't talking to me. I'm not taking off my mask. He got caught. That's his. I'm waiting on my turn, right? But what lasted 10 seconds felt like 10 minutes. My ADP and Dean both had to say, AJ, take off your damn mask. Man, I ain't taking off my Antonio. So take off our mask and everybody goes crazy. But in my mind, you can see me. I'm not frowning because I'm gritting. I'm frowning because I'm like, man, I can't wait to get this mother. I'm upset in so many ways. But there was a story that taught me a lesson. The fact that we were all on the same page, the mask didn't matter. So whether or not you're wearing the mask is not the conversation. The question is, are you identifying with your brother in the heat of a situation? Or are you going to jump sides? See, that's the biggest issue when people jump sides on you. And that's what you get in that Little Baby and Gucci Man song. You're going to end up dead if you keep on playing both sides. A bunch of black suits, a bunch of bow ties. And when we were in school, we had another one where you remember Shawty Low? People say they're from the West Side. God damn, it must be two sides. That's that conversation of, are you on my side or are you not? See, I'd rather be around a bunch of enemies that will kill me than to live amongst friends who will watch me die. So when you think about this, even in a situation of just R&B, Tamia had a song, There's a Stranger in My House. There's a stranger in my house. What'd she say? It took a while to figure out. What'd she say? There's no way you could be who you say you are. You have to be someone else. See, no one likes someone that they don't recognize, who's wearing a mask, but they can identify on their side. And last but not least, to all my older folks who are out there, we understand that we have a song called They Smile in Your Face all the time. They want to what? Take your place. Lookout stabbers, backstabbers. These folks who are pretending to be your friend, they are not your friends. Just because they pretend to love you and like you on social media, they really despise you. They hate you by not liking your picture. They hate you by not showing up and supporting your events. They hate you because of their actions. Quit worrying about their reactions and look at their actions. Moving on. So, Durham in 1960s. Let me make sure I look at this time. Okay, doing okay. Durham in the 1960s, you see it, but it doesn't change much today. Whites own 98% of the agricultural land that's distributed in America. We see here that non-whites are restricted to $44 billion of that revenue in those agricultural spaces. Whites equivalent to $1 trillion. So I don't want to hear anything about looking at George Floyd and Breonna Taylor from the violent point of view. We need to look at this violence that's being committed on ourselves, on our families, and our people every day. I'll never forget the day that I found out one of my family members had an interest rate on their home of more than 12%. That predatory type of behavior in lending. I got a problem with the lender. You too busy worrying about Shaniqua and Jamal on the block. I'm looking at things from the high places. I want to ride out on who are telling me that my parents and my family are going to be out on the streets because of something that they can't afford. This is something that I really can't get my mind around. We're fighting each other. So don't get caught up in this idea that we are each other's enemy. Rest in peace to George Floyd. Rest in peace to Breonna Taylor. Justice for Ahmaud. Truth in service. The truth is America does not serve us. We need less community service and more community servants. Just so you will understand, I served in working on the Duke lacrosse. I served in working for the Gen of Six. Most importantly, Obama got elected because of students at North Carolina Central University known as the Obama Squad. I kid you not. Not only did we have the #1 turnout in the state, but the second one was my roommate, Warren County, Durham County. Look it up. These are facts. You cannot argue with the servants of America and the servants of your legacy at the institution. You too can do something. You can get justice for Dre. I'm going to leave that at that. Are you a servant? Or are you sleep woke? Because all that sleep woke gonna leave you woke and broke. I'm done. Let's talk.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Donaldson. Honestly, if anybody has time on their hands, they can check out an article written by Dr. Donaldson called The Tennessean. It's an amazing article. It's basically the majority of what he summed up in his presentation, which was amazing. So let me just say that first. We can start off with the questions. Tolia, I'm not sure if you want to start off.
First, I want to say thank you, Dr. Donaldson. That was a lot. It was a lot to digest. The first question that we have is, would you share with us and our viewers what your background is and what you actually do as a career and how you ended up in this profession?
Oh, okay. So sorry. Let me come back to reality. First off, let me say this. I made one simple slip, and I want to make sure I get to this page. The work continues with 10th Summit. I haven't just stopped with my work back home. I mean, at NCCU. And as you know, that this is a near and dear organization to me. We continue to help thousands of youth. You can see and support us at any moment. I just wanted to share this for those who are still in attendance. And if you want to contact me, feel free to hit me on Instagram, which I'm not as savvy, but I'm definitely not as savvy on Twitter. But let's keep the Twitter on the slide. So you can contact my organization at 10th Summit, as well as the website. We're receiving all types of donations to continue to support. We've given out 2 scholarships already this year, and we look to continue that work. Thank you. Okay, now back to your question. I'm sorry, I had to get that commercial in there. I would be remiss. Okay. How did I get to this work? Is that what your question was? Okay, so, and those of you who are thinking of stepping out of the room, please don't step out the room. I gave a short talk because these students have questions and I'll prefer to split it over this time. So let's really stay in here and get together. I come from a tradition of community activists, and one thing that drove me growing up was the talks that I would have with my drug addicted uncle and family members who I never looked at as anything more than the drunk uncle in your family. There was a problem with that. I wasn't educated or old enough to understand the history of that man that I judged at such an early age. That information stuck with me because come to find out, his legacy as a Black Panther really was riveting in Knoxville and tore these people to shreds. He was fighting for people that was giving out spoiled beef to our people. Something happened to him between the 60s and the 80s that made him become so disillusioned that he would end up just like Huey P. Newton, dying in a crack house. That drove me because I needed to understand who would want to tell the stories of those people who are the least of these. You know, they say the meek shall inherit the earth. No, the meek are those who have the ability to kill with the sword and keep it sheathed in the time of battle with humility. And perhaps his drunkenness was his humility. I don't know, but that's one of the things that drove me, telling the stories of those people who are not heard, which is why my voice is the way it is, and I deliver in such a no-nonsense kind of way. So I hope that answered your question, inspired by my family's legacy of participating in the cause, even if it was a little ghetto.
Well, my next question is, as a former Eagle, how did North Carolina Central University help with your skill set and your success?
Ooh, where do I start? Man, come around all those Eagles who are here now. I don't know where to start, but let's start with this. Let's start with Dr. Jarvis Hall. That'll be most appropriate. Dr. Hall didn't snitch on me, and this is something that I could resonate with early on in life. I can't explain this moment, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. They had a system set up where you were to fill out a permission slip before you went on this trip to the primaries. I believe a D West is in here and a few other poli-sci folks are in the room. They can remember this trip. And this was when Al Sharpton was running for president. This would have been 2004. I never filled out the permission slip, and I heard that this bus was leaving the day of. I wanted to go to South Carolina for the primaries to be a part of this moment. I snuck on the bus. Everyone's lined up. Sean Cunningham may be on here as well. He probably remember this too. I can see Adam Key sitting in seat 7. I can see his now wife sitting next to him. I can see this like it was yesterday. The energy of walking on a bus and you're the only one standing and everyone has signed the permission slip, they're ready to go. And he looks at me, he says, "Who the hell are you?" I said, I'm AJ, you know. He says, "Oh." He looks at his paper. He looks at me over his glasses. Says, "Have a seat." My name was not on that paper, but that compassion taught me a lot. He could have embarrassed me. He could have made me walk off that bus. I would have been sitting there in front of the union. You know how you sit when you're embarrassed. You know how you kind of sit with like it ain't bothering you. You can't keep walking. You can't. You got to play it cool. So I would have been sitting there as the bus pulled off, and I could just imagine people like, "Dang," looking at me. I would have never recovered. But that moment got me involved in activism in a way that if it wasn't for that political science club, Dr. Jarvis Hall, all the men who were ahead of me, I wouldn't have been in the position to do what I ultimately did with the Obama Squad. That's really the truth. And North Carolina Central provided me an opportunity by allowing me to come to a school and admitting me. That's why I got so upset when I said, "Hey, have that same Duke energy when they deny you from their schools." See, it's funny how Central can groom you and mold you, but then you want to forget and go represent another side and represent this flag. You ain't never seen me wear no University of Florida paraphernalia. I don't give a Central and Eagle, HBCU. Yeah, Phil nigga here now, problem. I'm not going in anybody's direction that wants to tell me otherwise, because I know too much history to understand that, hey man, this is a business exchange. Sorry for your long-winded answer, but Central showed compassion and gave me the stomping grounds to develop my activist skill set.
No, thank you. That's a really good answer. Go ahead, Talia.
That was a great answer. You feel like it was long. That was a great answer because Central is definitely stomping grounds for us. My next question is, what are some ways that people could potentially enter your field, and what is some advice for people who are interested in going in that same direction?
Sure. First, I would say do what you desire, and have a passion. Don't do something because you think it's the most appropriate or it's going to settle well with your family. Notice what I said in my earlier parts. You need to learn a trade and you need to learn how to code. I'm not going to lie to you because I'm speaking with family and I want you to understand that there are directions in the humanities, but just understand how they're treating Black faculty. You got them working 5 course loads at your HBCU. Then they want you to get them as your advisor. So then your favorite professor at your Black school gotta be the advisor for 6 different organizations. And on top of that, they have their own families. Then they have to produce research. And if they don't produce research, then they look as less qualified. I mean, what are we talking about? So I would caution anyone to go in this direction unless they really want to make a real difference and have impact with the research that they're going to develop. Who wants to just be smart for the sake of being smart? No, you look stupid. Like, really, congratulations, you can count up all the change in someone's pocket, but you don't realize that the game and the cards are being stacked against us on a daily basis. You need to learn how to build a garden. First thing you need to do before you ever decide to try to become a professor. Learn how to defend yourself. Learn how to shoot a gun. Learn how to fight in a martial arts kind of way. Find out things that are going to contribute to your daily life in a real way, and make sure your mom and your brother are taken care of, and your sister. Make sure they're good. Learn something, You can't just become a professional. I like that.
Thank you for that. I actually want to touch back on your presentation and the article that I read from you from the Tennessean. Like I said, I read it. I absolutely loved it. If anybody has a chance to read it, read it. When you broke down basically everything this country has done wrong for us, and I hope this isn't too much of a deep question, but as someone who has a history in politics and a deep background in African American history, what do you feel like would be the solution to the things that set us back so far already as a race?
Ooh, that is a good question. And I have an answer, but I want to be careful with this one because a lot of my research will kind of speak to this going forward. So let me start by saying this. The first answer is trying to find and develop some form of self-control before we get to this idea of community control. The solutions to our problems are so massive. We have to close the ranks and start to huddle amongst each other because we don't have enough resources to keep sharing and sharing with everyone else. You're trying to fight for Breonna Taylor. Before you know it, they got you over here fighting for somebody else's cause. You can't concentrate on one thing. Not saying we can't multitask, but we have so many deficiencies that we need nutrients for. We need to close ranks and try to develop within. I can speak to this because I watched Howard Fuller try to develop an independent Black school called Malcolm X Liberation University. I watched McKissick be called an Uncle Tom for switching to the Republican Party when he was trying to develop Soul City. Which one is it? Are we going to continue to attack people because they have different views? Or are we going to realize that we have to close rank and come together with an eccentric circle to agree on at least one thing? And that's okay. I still don't have to like you. The problem is we cannot come together for at least one thing. Okay? So the solutions are, what can we do today? Obama squad came together because we wanted Barack Obama to get elected. My roommate was a devout anti-capitalist, anti-establishment, borderline anarchist, right? And we didn't agree on anything. But for at least 7 or 8 months, we were both working for the Obama campaign. See, that's something that shows you this possible. But when egos get in the way, you start to find people publicly just saying, nah, I don't agree with that. And then you get Facebook thugs that just want to be commenting just to comment, not realizing that nobody's really on Facebook anymore. They're all on Instagram and trying to figure out how to get on Clubhouse. Like, it's time to grow up. And I think the solutions are doing something extremely well for an extended period of time. Case in point, the 10th summit that I've created. I stopped speaking, particularly because I got tired of just being a talker. You can look at my resume. When I was in school, I was speaking so much that my head would spin, and I was being asked to go across the country. I almost became the professional, and I stopped because people were getting killed in my hometown, and I couldn't look in the mirror. See, God don't like ugly, but some people are too afraid to look in the mirror. I looked in the mirror and saw that people were dying in my hometown. So starting in 2012, every year, just continuing to grow something small, not trying to become the NAACP, not trying to become core, just doing something in my hometown to do my part to stop what's happening in some form or fashion. Within the last month, 3 teenagers, 15, 16, and 14 have been murdered. And you know what they're talking about? They're posting it on Instagram saying we smoking on their pack. That's straight out of Chicago drill music, Tukaville. That's what I'm looking at on a daily basis coming through my line. You think I got time to worry about what's going on in California? You think I got time to worry about what's going on in South Africa? I got to focus on people that I know, children being murdered every day, and trying to find out what solutions are. You got to spend that much time to address that much of a problem. Quit trying to be famous and get to work. Too many people working to be seen, but can't be seen doing work.
Thank you for that. So my next question touches on 10th Summit. And
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go that direction. But that, I hope that answered your question to some degree, Zaria.
It did.
Because I got to make them read it. I can't just give it away for it. I can't give them the article. All right.
Okay, so you don't want to ask the question about 10th Summit? You want them to go read it?
No, the article. I didn't expound on the article because I could have gone into the history of environmental racism that she's referring to. She read the whole thing, and the solutions are in there, but that requires a reading that I think we need to check out, and perhaps we can get it from there. But one thing that I say in that article is that we are expected to be the invisible man and the invincible hand at the same time. So Black people are actually overperforming and saving this country over and over again to the points that Stacey Abrams, apologize guys, the Queen Stacey Abrams pretty much turned Georgia the color blue. She did that. You know, we got to remember that we don't have to keep saving this country, and we need to save ourselves. All right, 10th Summit, go ahead.
Okay, 10th Summit is an event that informs and makes one aware of various issues that are persistent in our communities. So you talked about our communities, and you talked about first attacking our communities before you go to someone else's communities. So can you expound more on the objectives about the summit? And are you able to share any testimonials from people who have participated in the summit?
Yeah, so most likely most of my team, they're on here. I hope they're logged on. But I'll start with this. My little cousin, someone called me back in 2008 or 9. I think I was still at Central. They told me my little cousin had just been shot on the corner, and they were wondering, you know, who did it. Within about, you know, another month or so, another one of my little cousins got shot. This time, one paralyzed waist down. I kept coming home hearing stories where people were being killed, and they kept asking, well, AJ, what are you going to do about it? Now, this is going to answer your question so that you can understand. What stood out to me was that what could we provide in a small way, especially since I live in another state, that could bring some relief, at least for one day? What does one day look like? You know what does 4 hours look like? You know what does 1 hour look like? What does the first, I'm a teacher, pedagogy, lesson plan, 1 minute at a time, scripting. What does it look like from the beginning of them entering the tense experience to the time they get out? So I focused on breaking it down minute by minute, making sure that I can achieve a qualitative, engaging, impactful experience for at least that day. Locus of control, controlling what I can control. I couldn't bring my little cousins and them back. I couldn't make them walk again. I couldn't do anything that had already happened. What I could do was do a small part that made me feel like, okay, I gave it all that I could. Now, the question is, how do you expand this program from this 4-hour experience and beyond? I never lived in Tennessee, but I knew that not doing this every year would become problematic because these kids look forward to it. And the story that I want to tell you is that one girl ran away and my co-director found her and was able to return her back to her family. This is something that they reached out to us about. These are the stories that they won't share. You understand? I can absolutely explain to you that okay, I'll stop there. Perhaps you want to, ask more questions. So I'm disciplining myself. I'm going to stop there. But I'm passionate about this work, and it's just, I don't speak a lot. So this is a rare occasion.
Thank you for that answer. Zaria, you can take the next.
As far as the 10th Summit, where do you see it going for the next 10 years?
I'm glad you brought that up because it's time to do some, real work. I'm trying to raise $100,000 for donors who are on this call, and Zaria and others. I would be more than interested in brainstorming with young people on how to create these types of summits in Durham, North Carolina, that can start the process of challenging the issues that are going on in different localities. So I can imagine about 37 tent summits over the next 7 years in different cities, operating and running full staff, trying their best to address things on a minute-by-minute basis and encouraging and inspiring people. Community connected is community empowered. And up until just last year or two, I wasn't living in Tennessee, but now I'm in a mindset that I want to get this to run full speed, and I can possibly allow these young people to take over because they need something to do. They need something to run. People looking at the unemployment rate for adults. Does anybody want to really talk about the unemployment rate for teens? I can't tell them to put down the pack. I can't tell them to put down the gun. I don't know what to replace it with. Words, they're not listening. These kids aren't bluffing. They will shoot you. So again, Zaria, the funny thing is people think they can do it the easy way. They think they can just show up and give a lecture and wave and kiss a bunch of children and show some pictures on Instagram and no, you cannot be a part of the community if you don't have the identity. You have to identify with them. They have to know who you are. I mean, it's just real simple. Be a true person. People are really putting on fronts, and it needs to stop. And if your role is to donate money, which a lot of my friends have done, then do that. That's a role to play. But everybody got this sense of narcissism where they want to be everything. They want to be the speaker. They want to be the teacher. They want to be the preacher. They want to be the donor. They want to be the donor. Okay, what don't you do? I'll wait. What else do you code too? Oh, okay. My laptop broke. You want to fix it? I mean, ain't nothing worse than a know-it-all. Like, and then want to hate on you because you in the game. You can't play. I am the worst offensive player on any basketball court, but I guarantee you I am the best defensive player on any basketball court. That is raw facts. And we're going to win because I know that I can't play offense that well, but I can play defense. Good luck with me chasing you around. You can't do everything. Play your role and quit being jealous. You know, ain't nothing worse than seeing influencer on somebody's page and I don't know what the hell that even means. Like, good grief. Does anybody bake cakes anymore?
Thank you for that. Talia?
Okay, so I know in your presentation you talked about wearing the mask and having an impact in your community. So let's talk about Central and how Central students can strengthen their involvement and being involved in activism on campus, off campus, wherever.
Rule number one, stop going to meetings just to meet. Meetings for meetings are just absolute nonsense. That's the first rule I remember, even as being a student activist. If I'm going to the meeting and I see on the agenda that it's the same stuff we talked about last week, I'm not coming. I'm not coming. So rule number one, stop going to meetings for the meeting. There needs to be an initiative and agenda. Number two, commit to one organization. All of your time, all of my love, my peace and happiness. I mean, listen, give it to them. If you want to be affiliated with other organizations, that's fine. I'm just trying to explain to you how hard it is to stretch yourself over 10 or 12 different projects and you can't be effective. So rule number one, quit going to the meeting just to be in a meeting. Rule number two, join one organization that you're committed to. I didn't say you couldn't be a part of multiple organizations. But see, what's happening is you're a part of what I call the organizational complex, the organizational industrial complex. You are literally just adding on these different things for your resume. And the truth is, you think that someone's going to read it and say, wow, you were really a part of so many organizations. I don't care about that. I want to know, what did you do? What initiative did you start? What program did you implement? How many people participated? How many lives were saved? How many people were fed? That's if someone really is interested in your impact. So I wouldn't get so caught up on spreading yourself thin. When we worked on the Obama squad, Brianna Hargrove and January and so many others, her husband down, Brian, and well, not so much Brian, but he was down for the cause. A lot of these Obama squad people, they lost their whole freshman year. I lost 12 pounds working on the Obama campaign, and I barely weighed a feather. So we were committed long term, 20-hour days. And then you can get your life back and you can literally put your middle finger up to people that tell you you're not active enough and say, I'm retired. I'm a civil rights veteran. I'm an Obama squad veteran. Your turn. Don't come to me 34, 50 years of age talking about what I'm not doing. What did you ever do? And I'm really serious about that. So number three, the last thing I would say is, really bring in those people that are less popular. See, there's this elitism that exists on campuses and universities. You got the Kappas, you got the Alphas, you got the Omegas, you got the pretty girls, you got the dudes that walk around in suits just so they can take pictures and look cool, like whatever. I would sit down with those people that no one talked to. There was a girl by the name of Sandy that no one wanted to talk to when I was in school. There was a kid by the name of Rex, rest in peace, Rex, who worked for me in the campaign, who died. But the truth is, people will overlook these students because they felt like they were holier than thou. My line name is Madu. That stands for of the people in a sense, right? Swahili. So I was always connecting with people who were not as popular or as well received. And that wasn't pretending, because I come from that. I can't pretend when I come from the hood and I'm broke. I can't get to school and to be woke broke. You know you going back to your mom's 2-bedroom apartment, but you want to get the campus in front with your new J's that you got with your refund check. Stop it. Stop. So you got to bring in the least of the into your ranks, because it's not that there's not enough people for organizations. You've not tapped into the resources of people that are already there and capable. The question is, can you make them look cool? Anybody can join the popular squad. And make them your friends. To this day, I talk to all my folks. So, number one, stop going to meetings for the meetings. 2, limit the organizations that you join. And 3, reach out to the least of those students that are less popular.
Well, I think those are some good tips, especially like for freshmen and stuff like that, so they can know exactly what they're doing, exactly their purpose here on Central's campus. I think that
one more thing. I'm
Okay.
sorry. You got to get outside the campus bubble. There's a whole Durham community down there in Mendoza Terrace. You got a situation where carbon monoxide is killing Black babies in the public housing situation. You know, you got to remember that you are only as great as the people that surround you. So this campus and community connection has to exist. That's what was going on in the 60s. And that's what my research will say. You got to work on and wait on the book for all of that, though. But I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you this real game that few people take heed to. You reach outside of that campus bubble, you make your way down Fayetteville Street, and you talk to people in the community, and you find out who they are and where they come from, and you build with them. Because all these friends that you're with in this city that are your college buddies, they may be your friends afterwards, but when you coming home for homecoming and every time you want to visit, Miss Moultrie, Miss Anna, Miss Jones, Lavonia Allison, all these women, and Victoria Peterson, and shout out to Jackie Wag, all these people that I came up and learning, I know for a fact they still gonna be there. They're still around. I haven't seen these people in years, but they're staples in their own right. You're just visiting. You're passing through. You can't frown on them. Oh, they're Durham. You know, let me say this. One more thing. You know, people that say, oh, I'm from New York. No, you're not. You're from Raleigh. You ever found out that somebody's not exactly where they say they're from? Oh, man, I'm from Jersey. You from Snow Hill. Yeah. Man, I'm from, and then it gets even worse than that. Man, I'm from Atlanta. No, you're not. You from Lithonia. Like, it's so many people that front where they're from. You know, so I just had to get that off my chest. So, thank you. All right.
that has a lot of that here, so thank you for that. So Lisa, I guess you can ask your last question before we begin to close out.
Okay, I was just checking the chat, and someone said earlier you discussed the connection between money and the outcomes of the 10th Summit. What is your vision for fundraising?
Yeah, so, you know, we're trying to raise money because we're looking to create a permanent position for a, you know, community director, a school outreach. We're working on the strategic planning now. In fact, I've reached out to a few of my friends to come in and help us with that process. And the money is what I'm starting to realize is going to be the biggest issue, because we have to be able to offer talented people to fill these roles to get the work done. You know, you got to understand that 80% of any budget is really going to be your personnel. You know, people can continue to pay for computers and other expenses, but that's really not going to take up the bulk of what you're paying for. So we really have to get some real money to really put towards these goals that I can imagine and envision, and have been working on a small scale. It works on a small scale. It's I really 7, 9, 8 years, 9, 10 years proven. It's time to expand. And it's just that my time and my availability has been limited because I've not lived in the city directly, but I'm trying to head in that direction. So anyone that wants to support or talk or set up a conversation or direct me to resources where that's possible, I'm open to that because I really do believe it's going to get worse for our people in the next coming 2 years. You can see that with what Biden has started to do. Thank you. I see the suggestions coming up. Keep those coming. And let's see if we can't get a caption of those. Let's see if we can't capture those suggestions because I can't see everything.
Okay, I'll try to make sure that there's like a screenshot made so you can see everything. Is there anything that we've left out in our questionings or that you may have left out in your answers that you want to be addressed here tonight?
Ooh, wow, I didn't think I was going to get that question. You guys are ready for the job market. That's a great question. Let's see. Anything that I left out? Yeah, here's the thing that I left out. One thing that I want to suggest is that I'm never trying to appear overly righteous than anyone that chooses not to participate in the struggle. I realize there's about two games that are being played out here. There's a status game and a money game. People that's going for the bag and people that are, going for the status. I get it. Here's what I want to suggest though, is why is it that our people aren't getting information on credit? They're not getting any information on foreign exchange trading. They're not getting information on stocks. They're not understanding what a CD is. Why is this not happening as early as elementary, middle school, high school? Why is financial literacy so beyond our reach? So when you make it to that level of money, do you really think your work is done? Do you think you are like, you can't just be comfortable knowing that you're the only one that knows what you know? And then if we get to this conversation of economics, I spent time in Hong Kong, and actually I received a certificate from Georgetown in political economy. I understand this law really well called zero-sum game. Why are you telling everybody that we can be rich? This is not true. There's only so much money that exists. You gotta find a comfortable spot to be okay with. What's comfortable for you? Why are we constantly chasing this insatiable thing? And then if you make it, you stunting on somebody like, yeah, you're not making it like me. But see, this is gonna keep families from really coming together. It's only gonna get worse if we don't change this mindset. It's not limiting our expectations. It's like, why do you think you could be Jay-Z, Oprah, and think that 20 billion people can become the same thing? This doesn't make mathematical sense. So we start to worship these overly successful people to the point that we create deities out of these entertainers. We can't worship this aspirational appetite, right? We're becoming consumed with consumerism, right? Materialism is starting to decay at our moral growth. Get the bag, get the money, but remember the word that I use for you guys. Have an identity. Do not co-opt. Wear the mask, but be the spook that's set beside the door. You cannot go around like Kanye West talking about slavery was a choice and Harriet Tubman didn't free the slaves. Just shut up, please, even if you were not meaning that. I'm trying to educate these folks on the ground level. You're making it hard for the salt of the earth. They listen to these people, okay? All those, keep them coming. That's activism going on in the chat work. See, this is what activism look like. People are suggesting opportunities for attempts, and that's helpful because you ultimately are going to help kids in a way. And that's one thing I like about this particular moment. We're doing activism as we talk, and you are contributing to that. I want you guys to realize that. Zaria and Ms. Stancil, you're helping with this, okay? Just know you're doing real work too. So, sorry. I know you got 7 o'clock deadline cut off, but Hey, it's been a lot going
Yeah,
on.
very true. Talia, if you want to close it out with this final question before we say our goodbyes.
Okay, so I was trying to understand this question in the chat,
Okay.
and
Uh-oh, you can't understand it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
okay, so since I asked about the 10-year plan, the 10-year tent summit plan, what is your 10-year plan in your career? Like, where do you see yourself as far as your career
Mhm.
in 10 years? Because it's a lot coming, and you have definitely just showed us a lot of where you came from. So,
Yeah,
where do you see yourself
this
in
is
10
just the
years?
beginning. I've been quiet for a
Literally,
long time. I mean, people got a
you
problem.
making an impact.
I'm gonna tell you, people got a problem on their hands. I'm gonna be honest. If you were a hater before, you better off going ahead and picking up the support sign because it's not gonna stop. I got people, and my team is locked, and we're rolling. I mean, I have this thing that I refer to as comrades. It's my inner circle, and as long as they're rocking with me, I don't care who are the rocks against me. So you need to develop that kind of team yourself, and I really believe that with God with me, I don't know who can be against me. So the next 10 years are, I imagine I'm going to release this book for my research, which is a professional requirement, but also it's a personal goal of mine. So that book is going to really speak to some solutions and some of the issues that we dealt with historically, especially as I analyze Black power and community control. I can imagine becoming more active with, my mentoring. Um, but I need to make sure I continue to increase my personal wealth so that I can protect myself and insulate myself from the potential issues that may occur. So I don't believe in being broken woke. So I'm turning a corner to take care of my time and plan strategically and, you know, make sure that I invest and grow my portfolio and extend businesses and do all the things that I can do because I'm energized for it. But I will warn people. I've been quiet long enough. It's going to be uncomfortable for anyone that's gotten comfortable. Because a lot of people who shouldn't be in the game have been playing because the star players have been on the bench hurt. But you can't lose your starting position to injury reserve.
Thank you for that. I will say knowledge is definitely power, and
Mhm.
continue to make your impact and leave your mark here. We
Absolutely.
thank you for being
Speak and
here.
listen. The people who need you to speak clearly and with authority. Humility has been conceived the wrong way. People who are using people for the wrong reasons have taken advantage of your silence. You need to make sure you protect those who aren't being protected because there are some people that's looking to take advantage of you because of your silence.
I really thank you for that. I needed this and I enjoyed this. Zara,
Uh,
you can take this out.
all right.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Donaldson, for joining us today, dropping your gems, telling your stories. Um, for everybody viewing, if you didn't learn something tonight, then you weren't paying attention because I learned a lot just being here. I want to say another special thank you again to the NCCU Office of Student Engagement and Leadership, along with the Lyceum Committee, for putting together this great event. For the people behind it, thank you. And for everybody here today who listened to Dr. Donaldson, thank you so much for sticking around with us. Um, Thank you, everybody. And that will be the end of tonight's Rock the Lyceum.